Žalost, nemamo dobre vesti iz Australije. Novaku Djokoviću, ministar iz imigracije Alex Hock ukinuo je vizu i najbolji sportista sveta trebalo bi da bude deportovan iz Australije. Ekskluzivno u našem programu je senator Južne Australije, Alex Antić, sa kojim ćemo ipak morati da razgovaramo na engleskom, a ja ću vam najvažnije delove tog razgovora prevoditi. Naravno, za početak da prokomentarišemo ovaj novi razvoj situacije. So, Senator Antić, good morning to you, or is it good afternoon in Australia? Thank you for the opportunity to have you in our show. Tell us, please, what is this new development going to produce? Does Novak Djokovic have to be deported, or there are any legal, should we say, exits for him now? Dakle, da li mora da bude Novak Djokovic deportovan? To je pitanje.
Well, yes, and it's good morning to you. It's good afternoon to me. So, dobro jutro is the way we say. But thank you for having me on. Look, that's very, very recent news about Novak. We have just found out that the minister has cancelled his visa, which means that he is set to be deported, which in my view is regrettable. I have written personally to the minister and said that I think he should stay. I think he should play. I think the world wants to see Novak play in the Australian Open to win it for his 10th time. But that news has just come through as we speak. And as your viewers probably know, Mr. Djokovic has already been through our federal court, which is one of our very important courts here in Australia. His visa was, in fact, endorsed by the court, if you like, or the cancellation of his visa was rejected. It was my view that that's where it should stop and that he should be allowed to play. But the immigration minister, Minister Hawke, does have the personal ability, the personal power to revoke a visa, and I understand this has been done on the grounds of the public interest. I don't know what that means, but it is curious in the sense that I don't believe Mr. Djokovic poses any threat to the Australian people, to the other players in the tournament. The only threat that he holds is the threat of winning the title for the 10th time. So that news is developing, but it is unfortunate.
Yes. Dakle, I will translate it shortly for our viewers which do not understand English. Dakle, senator Antić je upravo rekao da je ova vest praktično ona informacija koja se sada razvija i da čekamo da vidimo da li će se u stvari Novak Djokovic žaliti. Što se senator Antića tiče, on je već uputio jedno javno pismo tom ministru Hawku u kojem je ukazao na štetnost moguće odluke o deportaciji. You said that world wants to see Novak play. Does Australia want to see him playing? What is general public opinion? Dakle, senator Antić je u tom pismu napisao da svet želi da vidi Novaka na terenu. Da li to želi i Australija i kakvo je sada raspoloženje tamo?
Well, look, I think Australians do want to see Novak play. They've seen him play for almost 15 years here at the Australian Open and win it 9 times. So I think Australians do. But unfortunately, the Australia of the last 2 years has been, I think, probably misled by our media and some of our bureaucrats. And we're now in a position where many Australians are very fearful of COVID. They're fearful of what might happen, and unfortunately, I think are fearful and perhaps being led down the garden path, as we would say, by our media here to suggest that Mr. Djokovic is some sort of threat. We have hundreds of thousands of cases of COVID in the community. He is no threat, but I think Australians would love to see him play, but unfortunately that doesn't look like it's going to happen at this stage.
Yes. Just let me translate, please. Dakle, senator Antić kaže da Australijanci žele da gledaju Novaka na terenu, igra već 15 godina, 9 puta je pobeđivao i ako govorimo o kontekstu da li je on pretnja po javno zdravlje Australije, ova zemlja već ima 100.000 zaraženih koronom i Novak, koji je inače dobio dozvolu da uđe, nije taj koji je neki poseban rizik. Pitaćemo sada da li očigledno postoji ta opasnost od deportacije. Da li je bilo sličnih slučajeva? Were there any cases like this with celebrities or anybody known to the public in Australia of deportation in the last 2 years or lately?
No, there haven't been. There has been one other player, I think, that has had her visa cancelled as well. But there haven't been any other cases of celebrities like this. We have effectively been closed off to the rest of the world. In fact, the Australian government's position initially was to stop Australians from leaving, and for the larger part, stop people from coming in. So it's only relatively recent that we've allowed people coming back into the country from overseas generally. So no, this hasn't happened before. I know Novak would be very disappointed. I think the tennis community are very disappointed, and look, I think frankly, it's a sort of an unfortunate set of circumstances. But the minister appears to have made his decision. There may be legal recourse. He may have some ability to test that in the courts, but of course the Australian Open starts in about 2 days or 2.5 days, so time is really against Novak now.
Senator Antić kaže da je sada nažalost vreme protiv Novaka jer Australia Open počinje za 2 dana. Nije bilo sličnih slučajeva deportacije poznatih ličnosti ili sportista zbog korone, osim teniserke o kojoj smo mi znali. Inače, Australija je gotovo potpuno zatvorena zemlja od početka pandemije. Da li je to objašnjenje zašto je ovaj slučaj toliko važan? Jer mi Srbi sve vreme mislimo da je to zato što je on Srbin. Is that why this Novak's case is so important? Because we Serbs believe that it is happening just because he is a Serb. I know it sounds paranoid, but you know us.
Well, look, I understand that ethos. My father was born in Belgrade, and my grandmother came to Australia in the 1950s, and I know it well. In fact, I've been in a Medi hotel for 14 days in the last month myself. I was taken into a Medi hotel, which is a facility here, which is basically a hotel quarantine type scenario that you can't leave, and you are confined to your room. So I know the feeling personally, but look, I don't think this has anything to do with Novak's nationality. I think really the answer here is that, frankly, Australians are an example of what happens where a nation becomes geographically isolated from the world and is effectively controlled by a bureaucracy. We're sort of controlled by those who are unelected in many of our states. Not everywhere, but in many of them, and unfortunately, fear has prevailed in Australia at the moment, and that's very, very sad.
Senator Antić kaže da razume naš mentalitet. Otac mu je iz Beograda, ali da je i sam bio u tom Medi hotelu, odnosno u karantinu, i da lično zna osjećaj. Veruje da nema Novakova drama nikakve veze sa tim što je on Srbin, više ima veze sa tim što je Australija geografski izolovana zemlja, pa zbog toga ponekad, a posebno u vreme straha od korone, možda i previše pod kontrolom političara, odnosno birokratije. So this your own personal COVID drama that you had also had some legal misunderstandings. You didn't have to be at that quarantine facility. Ni on, ni gospodin Antić nije morao da bude u karantinu, ako smo dobro razumeli ono što su australijski mediji javljali.
Well, it's a very strange situation. It's difficult, I'm sure, for your viewers to understand what is very normal in Australia. But here, I travelled to my work in a different territory here in Australia, and upon my return, I was met at the airport by journalists and told I needed to go into a quarantine-like facility, a Medi hotel as we call it, for 14 days. I'd had 6 separate negative COVID tests, and clearly there was an interest in the media and an interest in someone to tell the media that it was going to happen. So, look, we are in interesting times in this country. In many respects, what is very normal in Australia in terms of restrictions on our freedoms would be very abnormal to other parts of the world. I've been quite a strong, outspoken critic of many of those policies, and I found myself in a Medi hotel for my troubles as well. So who knows what the real story is.
Da samo kratko prevedemo. Dakle, 6 negativnih testova je imao naš sagovornik, senator Alex Antić, pre nego što je ipak bio smešten u karantin. Imao je čak i neka ranija interesovanja medija i neprestano praćenje od strane medija šta će biti, ali on kaže da nažalost je izazov i, kako bi se to reklo, zanimljivo ovo doba u kojem živimo. But you know, Chinese people have this proverb which says, God forbid me to live in interesting times. Kinezi kažu, ne daj Bože, da živimo u interesantnim vremenima. That's what's happening to us. My last question to you will be, are you taking personal and political risks for taking Novak's side or common reason's side? Da li on rizikuje svoju izuzetno važnu političku funkciju i svoje, da kažemo, svoj politički opstanak time što govori za Novaka, a protiv ove diskriminacije? You even said vaccine discrimination.
Well, look, I've been an outspoken critic of vaccine discrimination. In this country, we have had instances of various states rolling out vaccine passports, which of course have caused so much drama in Europe, and mandates, people being forced to take the vaccine or lose their job. I've been very outspoken about all of that. I've been, I guess, outspoken about Novak for a whole host of reasons, one of which is I don't think he poses any threat to the Australian people. The courts have spoken, and I believe that he should have been allowed to stay. The question of whether or not I take personal risks from that. Look, I don't think so. In Australia, and in particular in the government, the party that I represent, which is the party of government at the moment, we are generally allowed to speak our minds, and I don't make any, any criticism of anything other than I believe that he should have been allowed to stay and play tennis because I'm a sports fan and I believe in the rule of law. So, look, I don't think so. I'd like to think not, but it is disappointing nonetheless.
Naš sagovornik, senator Južne Australije, Aleks Antić, kaže da želi da kaže svoje mišljenje, da je kritičan prema vakcinalnoj diskriminaciji, kako se to kaže, i da ne veruje da zbog toga rizikuje kao neko ko je ljubitelj sporta i neko ko veruje u pravo, ima svoj stav. Za kraj malo ćemo srpski, malo engleski. I believe that in the last your answer we had a little bit of influence of Serbian genes, but okay, whatever, however you name it. For the time being. We are extremely proud of you here in Serbia because we recognize you as one of our own, at least for the name. And that is the reason why I would like to end in positive tone and to wish you srećnu srpsku novu godinu, which just happened a few hours ago, and all the best.
All the best, and thank you. And can I say, I've been to Serbia, been to Belgrade 3 times. I love coming back there, and I look forward to coming back and seeing everyone again. So thank you for having me. Hvala.
Thank you. Hope to see you live here. Senator Južne Australije, izuzetno uticajan australijski političar Aleks Antić bio je naš sagovornik uživo iz Australije. Dakle, još jednom ponavljamo, čuli ste i vest da je ministar za imigracije Hok australijski ukinuo vizu Novaku Djokoviću. On mora biti deportovan, osim ako mu ne bude uvažena žalba na koju ima pravo.